Hello and welcome to the final day of Autistic Radio's broadcasts. Here's Christmas. We'll be back in 2026. It's quite sad now, actually, feeling that we've done all these different programs and all these different broadcasts, and this is the last time we get to talk to you and talk to each other and experience our autism together. Harry, are we ready for the 555 show?
Yes, we are. Hello, everyone. This is Harry's Facebook for Tuesday, the 30th of December 2025. This is where we share and discuss the Facebook posts on the autisticradio.com page. And the first post is from Chris Bonello, autistic author of the Underdog series. What do you love most about life? And Alfie Smith, the Speed Cuber. And he shared the following. Public service announcement. If you've had an awful year, please don't be disheartened when all your friends start writing statuses showing the highlights of their 2025. This is social media. Most of us, including me, only post the showreel, not the backstage chaos. And honestly, it's not always out of pride or trying to make ourselves look good. People are just less likely to have the energy to do a write-up about miserable things the same way we do with celebrations. I certainly don't make an effort to hide the bad stuff on my personal account. I'm just more likely to run to Facebook and post enthusiastically about something I achieved than do the same for something I simply endured. All the best to you all for the new year, and don't measure your backstage chaos by other people's showreels. What's people's thoughts?
Ain't that the truth? We live in this strange world where our communication with other people is so performative through social media, and it's almost that it's the completely neurotypical space. I'm so worried that this over the years will become more and more, and we autistic people who are looking at all these other different lives and living in these different ways will feel further and further away from whatever normality in society is.
Some things in the text. Part of neurotypical culture to not talk about bad stuff and pretending you are okay. And another, comparisons are odious, is an old quote I remember.
Yeah, we've just had some very autistic spaces over these radio days that we've been here. We've had the backstage area, and we've had the people making the broadcast and the podcast. All the way through that, we were sharing with each other the difficulties and the nitty gritty. There wasn't a lot of show reeling going on in our conversations, and I think that is different. I think we're much more likely to share these things. They call it oversharing, and we call it reaching out and need for connection.
I think the problem with society, or it seems to be me, or it seems in my opinion, is there's comparisons and one-upmanship to do something better. Like if someone goes for a long walk, someone puts up that they went a long run. If someone has done something like they've made a tenner for charity or a sponsor, somebody would put, well, I've had £100. It's that sort of thing that actually sort of irritates me, because that's not what I use social media for. There's some things that I share, mostly because it's other people taking photographs out with family. But I don't take that much pictures, when I'm out with friends. And I don't share that status on the activity I did that day like other people do. I've never posted about a meal. I've never taken pictures of the food. And I haven't even taken pictures, certainly not that often, of places that I've visited. Not that I visit that many places. Even when I've been on holiday, it's not like I'll take some pictures here and I'll share them with social media. The social media thing that I tend to use it for is information and bad jokes, basically, as Ray would probably say, because he's the one that's going to notice them. Dad jokes sort of thing, things to kind of lighten the mood. Because as we know, social media in itself is just so brutal. And it's created a society that is a bit anonymous. And if people feel anonymous, sometimes they actually feel they've got the power to hit out at people. Even if their name is up, sometimes people use different names. And it's amazing what people use it for, even though what we're talking about is actually comparison or comparing, sharing stories. The only time I've seen people share stories of things that are bad is when it's almost at crisis level, or as an example to help others. Most things I generally see are people talking about the good times, because you want to talk about the good times a lot more than you talk about the bad, unless something good is going to come from talking about the bad. So, yeah, I totally get it.
I think the Facebook culture and our social media culture is just an extension of what was already there. Part of colonial culture, everything being about competition, being one better than someone else, and work your way up to being more important than everyone else. And part part of all this stuff is they don't want you to show anything bad. If you look at when you ask a question, how are you? You're expected to say good or well, depend whatever your situation.
Yeah, that's a good point. Some people say fine because they don't feel comfortable with sharing anything, any struggles that they may be having anyway. But you are right about social media. A lot of all of it's controlled to a certain extent to what people say. And sometimes things like Facebook, people say something which isn't particularly bad or insulting, but not deemed acceptable by the people that run Facebook. There's these kind of keywords that they say should be said. A lot of them are rightfully, of course, on that list, but some, it's like something's taken out of context. And they can actually suspend your account. And that's happened to me once or twice, which I panicked about because I'm an admin for several different, accounts, including Autistic Radio. And it's just, yeah, we could kind of waffle about that, but yeah, totally agree what you're saying, Robbie. The next post is from Pete Warmby, autistic author. An autistic and ADHD award-winning writer and speaker on autism and autistic lived experience. And he shared the following. We are exposed to too many people's opinions. And I feel like because we're reading them, often anonymously, our brains seem to allocate them greater weight than they deserve. From fandoms arguing about new releases, to people's attitudes and opinions on global politics and trends, we have so many constantly in our faces, and I don't think it's doing us any good. I don't want to know so many people's opinions. Some, yes, those I value, but we're exposed to millions, many of which are ignorant, foolish, nonsensical, antisocial, cruel, vapid, poorly considered. Why are we reading and watching so many? I wonder what the long-term impact of this will be. And yes, there's irony here as I post my opinion to 37,000 people. What's people's thoughts?
There's also the possibility that some of these opinions are not even real. You know what I mean? They're created by bots. But that kind of exposure is what happens when you're needing to engage, which is, again, related to the previous post, I imagine. And what we do when we are involved with social media, it's a means for us to engage, maybe participate, a feeling of that. So when opinions come in, I suppose they're upsetting the environment. They're making you feel like you don't want to be there, and yet you do want to be there because you're trying to communicate, you're trying to engage. And when you brought in the word fandoms there, it kind of triggered me because I've been thinking today about fandoms and how, you know, the special interest aspect of our community has on occasion led to some people becoming creative themselves. So you become a fan of someone or something creative and you're passionate about it and you get involved and do stuff and engage with it. You even might meet the people that you are enthusiastic about. And what can happen in the best scenarios, I find, is that your very work doing that is a form of creativity, and it helps you then access your own form of creativity. So it's just this working community and making it really productive that I was getting as a reaction to all that.
The thing I find interesting about myself is that I don't give that much opinion on Facebook or on social media. I find that it's better to share information than give opinion. I do give opinion, but I don't give a lot of it because I'm trying to be careful in how things are perceived. But there's others, and there's obviously these bots that are about that deliberately say things, really inappropriate things, or just something that's just hateful and makes absolutely no sense. There's even comments that are made, like I follow kind of sporting Facebook pages. social media pages, not just Facebook, but all over the internet, basically, not just social media. And there's comments. They're there just to annoy, just to wind up. And it always gets quite sinister. Prejudice comes in. If it's not racism, it's sexism. And if it's not that, it goes into all manner of just attacking people in society just for the sake of, and it's not like full out attack. It's like, a sort of, this sort of kind of cheeky sort of gesture just to, like a comment, just an insulting comment rather being full on hateful, but it's got the hateful behind it. And then when you follow certain political things, there's obviously going to be the politics which is going against that grain. And there's other times, though, I've got to admit, that I actually enjoy reading comments. Not the comments that are spiteful, but I like the comments that bite back in a way that it's not sinister. It just ridicules what that comment is saying, which is probably why it's been done in the first place, is to create conversations, to create debate. It's debating. It's basically baiting. And even you get a lot of that. The media do that, and they probably always have done that, is baiting. They put certain words in things to wind people up. But there is some things I do enjoy reading because you see a bit of fight back. But then sometimes it gets too much and I'm going, why are people like this? Or why is these things in place? Maybe not the why, because I know what the why is, but it just gets so intense and so frustrating to see. Because as we know, life is hard enough without all this nonsense. But the sad thing is people get caught up in it. And it actually turns them very hateful towards other people without even meeting them.
Sorry if I've cut in on anyone. I can't quite see whether anybody's on or not on two screens. I put in the text that I see the poster has his post set on global, and that means anyone can reply. I never put my things global, because what you'll get is just besieged if you're kind of controversial or saying things, or a name, you've got some prestige or whatever. But part of the reason I didn't go global is because I just like to keep it within the people I know. That's my social media. So this poster wants to reach the whole world. The sign for it is a little globe. And the world is full of all kinds. And so etiquette is required, I suppose. There are settings in social media where you can limit things like that, even in global setting. But you've got to prepare to take some of that. And as Harry says, challenging opinions, challenging replies and responses, as long as they're being, what's the word, polite, considerate. But who are we to judge? You know what I mean? It's an open thing out there, And if you meet people in various situations socially, it can get heated, it can get nasty, You can't pick and choose, really, most of the time. You can, you just got to not put your settings to global.
It depends on what you're on social media for. And of course, there's ones where people are selling something or want to provide an information service, so they feel the global thing is required. But there's ways of controlling how comments, what comments there's a way of controlling and policing, comments and posts and that will come in, because I need to do that in one particular page, which is actually a Facebook group rather than a page. And, the banning of certain words to prevent profanity and obviously racism and stuff, even though a lot of that is automatically kind of taken out and the person banned. But yeah, we've had some, not too much, but we've had some of that criticism on autistic radio in the past. That we've had comments of people criticising what we've shared because of who posted it. And what we did for some time is regularly put a post saying is basically, please don't tell us what to do. Because certainly when I'm posting, I'm always careful of what to share and make sure it's not offensive. But it's very difficult to not offend someone. Because there's some things I see on Facebook which aren't out to offend. It's just like it takes you aback because of the way it's portrayed. Like when a parent of an autistic child words something in a certain way, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, don't talk like that, but then, wait a minute, I shouldn't be criticising because that's someone not being bad. It's just, you're basically you're reacting. And that's what Facebook and social media is all about, is reactive. People don't actually think about what they're saying. It's like reactive. It's like right away, and then they may regret, they may delete. But once it's on there, it's on there. And once somebody reads it, it's taken. It's it's a minefield.
It's also fairly instantaneous as well, I mean, you try and find somebody's post sometimes if you're looking for it. You can't find it. You get what the algorithm throws up sometimes. But also, if somebody's posting daily, say, there's no way you're going to see what they did a couple of days ago or a week ago. You're only going to see what they've done today. Although sometimes what you see is something that's like a week ago and you go, why is this coming up? So it can be quite bizarre. But again, I have feelings about social media where I don't even use it for communication. I just use it as a space to do stuff.
Most of my problems is over politics, and it's often friends.
There's something about Facebook, Robbie. I can't see what I used to be able to see where someone else was, replying to other people, but that setting seems to have gone now. I can only see what you post. I have no idea what other people or organisations posts you're responding to or communicating with. So I imagine you've got quite a lot of dialogue going on with various users of social media, yeah? Get this thing off.
I don't have that much following, and I don't have too much problem on my page. It's often with the stuff that comes up in my feed because of what my friends follow and post on, and what comes up in the news feeds.
And do you respond to that? So then you're on someone else's feed?
I've come to the point where I've stopped following people. I block pages that are problematic, but I still can't stop a lot of the racist stuff come up.
The next post is from Spilling the Tea on Autism and ADHD. which is a blogger, an author of Built from All They Broke, a poem collection, navigating the CEND system in the UK as an AUDHD mum, writing one poem at a time. Mum to two AUDHD girls aged 10 and 14, trying to keep sane. And they shared the following. 2026, the year to be fully unmasked. Embarrassment is just a layer you can chip through. It isn't who I am. It's something that grew on me. After years of being watched, corrected, laughed at, told to tone it down, be quieter, be less. Drama class was my first taste of freedom, my favourite lesson. Accents, characters, exaggeration. Being allowed to be expressive without apology. It was masking, yes, but it was also the closest I got to unmasking, because play is where my nervous system could breathe. So in 2026, I'm choosing something braver. I'm choosing to be me, without needing a role, a reason, or permission. That looks like making Lego because my hands need to build. Dancing in the supermarket because joy shouldn't be private. Using silly voices because play keeps me regulated. I'm pretty good at accents from all over the world too. Singing loudly, badly, beautifully because I love to sing. I'm done shrinking to avoid embarrassment. I'm done translating myself into something more acceptable. If embarrassment shows up, I'll let it sit there. I'll chip through it. Because on the other side of it is freedom, and I've spent long enough surviving. 2026 isn't about becoming something. 2026 isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who I was before the world told me to hide. My New Year's wish for all of you and your children is the safety and bravery to unmask and be authentically you. Michaela. What's your thoughts?
I'd support anybody attempting this to a certain extent, but my first response is, so-called neurotypical people are being themselves. And very often neurodivergent people find them upsetting, distressing sometimes, the way these neurotypicals behave. So I'm just wondering if we are upset by it in one group, do we have the right as a group to be so free ourselves? I mean, everyone should be allowed to be themselves, but if you become annoying to other people, or that's the wrong word, annoying, there are social boundaries. Maybe there aren't, but there are. And I think we all engage in a kind of social process, regardless of what group we identify with and who we think we are. So, but if a person is feeling that not being themselves is a real problem, like it's hurting them, then all power to you in exploring yourself and getting that, accessing that part of yourself. Don't be afraid of anyone.
The social boundaries have been imposed by neurotypical people. And if what you're going to do isn't going to be hurting anyone else, then I'm all for it. It's what I intend to go. It's exactly my plan for 2026, to wear the clothes I like, to do more of my music, to learn the other instruments and perform as myself. And I'm all for this.
I think it's a very privileged position. It's a lovely position to be in, to be able to say that you can unmask. But the ways the person is saying that they will unmask, they're not disrupting society, but they will get looks. And they're going to say to themselves, I don't care, this isn't actually harming anybody. Me dancing or me jigging or me expressing myself closer to unmasked is better. But yeah, I do get what you're saying there, Ray, because I would find some people who are autistic or ADHD absolutely incessant sometimes, because I need respite from these things. So I could imagine that the rest of society also needs protection from other people expressing themselves in the same way that you express that we need protection from them expressing themselves. I get what you're saying there, Ray.
Yeah, it's quite inspiring reading something like that. Reading from someone who is described as being felt worn down and told not to be themselves because being themselves isn't appropriate, and for a polite term. But having the confidence to go, no, I'm going to be myself, is quite inspiring because it's something that I tend to do more. Although always be aware of how I do it and who I do it with. But I feel that the older I'm getting, certainly I'm more comfortable of being the authentic me rather than the masking. Although a lot of the masking that I do is about coping, and it's about being courteous, I suppose. But if you felt you've been trodden on for so long, you cannot be that way. I do understand the incentive to go, no, I will be that way. As long as I'm not hurting others, please don't please don't try to tell me who I am and how I should behave. But there's ways of doing it. I mean, there was examples in the text about some people feel free, playing music, expressing themselves through music. Other people will do it through art, through writing, singing, all sorts of things. Some may be more noticeable than others. Some people may do it in private. Some people may want to do it sharing with people in public, performance sort of thing. But it is quite, I just like this sort of thing. There's a lot of stories you hear about people feeling that they feel they're not comfortable doing what they want to do. And just seeing someone say, well, I'm going to do it as a sort of New Year resolution, although they never said it that way. It's like something to look forward to when it comes to like milestones, when it comes to things like what's the new year going to be like? What's the plans? And to feel confident in yourself and look forward to being so, or at least trying it out, is something that's nice to say.
I like the point about the drama class. I was wondering at first, like, do I agree that the drama class was masking? Yes. No, I don't think I do agree that drama is masking. But then she goes on to add that because it's play. And play, I think, is a very underrated part of the human condition. Work and play, that separation. There's a serious life and then there's the playful life. Really, there's no difference. So I'm glad that play was brought in there to add to that thought she had that the drama class was just merely masking, wasn't real. It's as real as you want it to be.
It's interesting to me because my family used to go away and play. Every year we would go to a big festival. It's a bit like Coachella or Burning Man. It's called Glastonbury here in the UK. And we went for more than 20 years as a family. And we would be there for a week, and we would be in an alternative land in which we could be anything. We could be fairies, we could be goblins, we could be any version of ourselves any day. And we allowed that to each other as well. We allowed each other to play. So every year we had this wondrous nirvana wonderland for play that was our respite, that also informed the rest of our lives, because in that place you can take away the playfulness and involve it in your own life. And I think that's what's happened with the drama classes, that you can play, you can become somebody else, you can change, and then you can take that away in your own life as well.
Yeah, it's like integration, isn't it? Integrating yourself with the world somehow, not feeling separate from it anymore, and not reinforcing that separation through identity issues. Although I must add, words come to mind there like compromise and compliance, which Robbie knows these words well. And, I can maybe feel him saying these words to himself, as I said, integrate with the world, because very often the world sometimes wants you to comply and to compromise. It's just the way we look at it and the words we use sometimes, but there are realities there, so don't let anybody step on your toes.
The next post is from the National Autism Association. Charity organisation. This is the official Facebook page of the National Autism Association as described in its Facebook description. And it says the following: awareness saves lives. In the span of just 1 week, 2 young autistic children were rescued alive after wandering and being found in water. These outcomes were possible because responding officers knew to search water first, a critical understanding when an autistic child is missing. At NAA, we continue to raise awareness about wandering and water safety because the risks are real and preventable. We are grateful these stories ended in rescue, not tragedy. Let's keep working together to protect autistic children and support families with empathy, education, and action. And it has links for further information. What's your thoughts? The reason that I shared it was sharing something else within. It was sharing a picture of a letter, but I chose to read the supporting text, and I just found it interesting in what it was saying. Just about autistic children's safety, and if autistic child goes missing, search in the water first. I'm just wondering how that came about and why that's the case. Not saying it's wrong, I just found it interesting when reading it.
Yeah, I had similar thoughts, Harry. And I wondered, who is it, the National Autism Association? Because of course you have to take care and you have to consider, accidents and stuff in life. But I don't want to also be fear-mongering. I may be misreading this, but I'm just trying to get this description back. Oh no, wrong one, sorry.
It seems to me they're trying to push the idea that if you're looking for a child that has absconded, an autistic child, they have some evidence to say that autistic children have a fascination for water, or that's likely to be the kind of place that they're going off to find on their own. It could also be that if you're searching for a child or an adult that's missing, go to the places where there's most danger first, so that you can keep them away from the danger. Don't go to search somewhere nice and soft like a pub. Go for where they might actually be at harm. I'm not convinced that autistic children are more vulnerable to absconding and then drowning, but they seem to think that there's information, and they seem to think that if people know that autistic kids are fascinated by water, then that will make people go to the water first. I would say most children are fascinated by water, so if you're looking for a kid, go to the dangerous place first.
And electricity pylons and multiple dangerous places. I think at root here is wandering. Is your child wandering? I mean, that's the initial issue. So as a parenting issue, it's like, what do you have in place for that situation? I mean, you said something there that made me think of, you remember when David Cameron's child was left behind in a pub? Or some politician? And you think, like, yeah, there are processes in place and care, procedures. I hate to call it that. It sounds very officious, but just parenting, just looking after each other. And also I'm getting flashbacks to a Rolf Harris public service thing on TV.
To put this in context, the National Autism Association are based in the United States. So that it must be an issue that's arisen many times in that particular country. So it's just to put that perspective on it, why it was water. But as we say, water is one of many dangerous places which is better to look at first when looking for a missing child, adult, autistic, or otherwise. The next
So they
post.
call wandering, sorry.
No, on you go.
No, it's just, I was just reading it there because I don't know if you can see that I've highlighted the thing. They call wandering elopement, which is, I think, a term sociologically, isn't it? And it seems they're promoting now training first responders, caregivers. Yeah, fair enough.
I don't want to undermine any message about safety for autistic kids, but it seems to me that the scenario would go much like this for me as a child. I would have not wandered off, but entirely absconded on the basis that I needed to get away from things. I went to the place that I enjoy, which was down by the riverbank, to do some bird watching. I was sitting there quite safely and comfortably, and then I get hoiked out of there as though I was in danger because it's a dangerous place. That's a scenario that would be most likely from my childhood, but these people obviously know some more things and more evidence.
Yeah, there were different times and different cultures when we were young. I'm not saying it's any different from now, you know. It's just there's a wee bit more restriction, I think, these days on what the so-called freedom of the child compared to our youths. We hard knocks and learning the hard way and stuff like that. But I think there was also a kind of community as well where there were peers looking out for you to a certain extent, although that could lead to disaster as well when they like put you on a rope and made you swing out over the quarry.
The next post is from Neurodivergent Lou, who's a blogger finding a place in a neurotypical world. And he shared a presentation, which is fairly short, so I'll read it all. And it's called Autistic Joy Is. Autistic joy is the profound release of being in the presence of other autistic people, being set free from societal norms, the unspoken understanding, and the safety to embrace our authentic selves. Autistic joy is when the special interest comes up in conversation and all the knowledge can be usefully be infodumped. Autistic joy is meeting someone and realizing they share the same special interest as you. Autistic joy is sensory joy, when music fills the atmosphere, dancing with freedom and expression, moving along how feels right, listening to the crashing of waves against the shore. Autistic joy is noticing the small details, the texture of the bark on the trees, noticing the crinkles at the corner of a stranger's eyes as a smile breaks through their face. Autistic joy is coming home from a long day of peopling, dropping the mask and curling under a warm, soft duvet in a dark room, resting with no expectation. And finally, autistic joy is watching a TV. Autistic joy is watching a favourite TV show or film over and over again. What's people's thoughts? Do you relate to this?
Some of it, yes, but I want to insist on the idea of difference. I respond more to difference, and I'm not going to assume everybody's the same. But there was one of these posts here which says, I just got this feeling of like, have you ever been in the company of a bunch of people who are just like you and like everything you like? It creeps me out at times. It can get a bit intense. I like difference. I like bouncing off different ideas. That's just me though. But that was only one of these aspects of autistic joy that neurodivergent Lou was pushing here. There are others, and I'm up for a few of them.
I feel a lot of it was very good and very poetic, and talking about the joys and the things that we really enjoy in life and take wholehearted enjoyment from. The bits where it's about community and autistic other people, I think very few people actually get the benefit of that. There's a bit of a fantasy about some kind of autistic community where we can all be kind of the same kind of freak. And I'm much more into what you're saying, Ray, is that we are almost unclubbable as a wide disparate of people. It's not a natural way of having your brain develop that makes you very social and chummy to other people, except in really kind of set circumstances.
Yeah, I totally get it. I can correspond, I can relate to what the presentation is saying. But I can also relate to what Robbie's saying in the text. It's very much stereotype. It's like one size fits all sort of thing. It's like, if you're autistic, this is what it's like. This is what your joy is like. And it's just so simplistic. And as we know, life isn't like that. Every autistic person is different. I mean, there's 4 of us here, and every single one of us is different. That's what makes the broadcast, that's what makes the podcast, that's what makes conversation interesting. We're very different. We may be similar in some ways and very different in others. But what I like about the presentation is that it gives hope for people who may feel a bit lost or maybe feel that their life is actually miserable. And it's good to be told, well, there's a possibility, there's a way out, not a way out, but there's a way forward. And also explaining that what you do isn't strange. Because I watch the same TV programs over and over again as comfort, generally films. Sometimes you don't even watch them, they're in the background as a sort of comfort noise. I don't generally watch anything new. I do the same things over and over. I can relate to, because I live on my own, I can relate to loving coming home after a long day of peopling, as was been described before. It's like you're out and it's been a good time and it's been good, even been away for a couple of days even, and it has been good, but it just feels so good. Especially if you've been travelling in public transport, to come in and just your own space, your own sort of kind of setup, the comfort of home. So I can relate to a lot of it. I can certainly understand that it may come across not patronising, but very limiting. And Robbie's just put a text in saying, the opposite of me. I actually hate being on my own. And that's after me talking about liking being alone and knowing that others feel the same way and knowing that others certainly don't. They crave or certainly want company in some way.
Being on your own all the time.
I actually need to be on with people on a regular basis, but it needs to be with people that I can connect with. Being on my own is actually what derives my depression, and that's probably because I'm also ADHD.
So I'm thinking, what if someone came into your house and stayed with you?
Not allowed, but I would struggle unless it's someone I really trusted, because I'm very protective of my belongings. But on the other hand, I do actually need company.
Yeah, I get that. I was just trying to figure out where the lines are, because we all have our margins for what we'll accept and what we won't. Yeah.
When I lived with my parents, I had 2 rooms upstairs. Originally just the one, and that was my space. But I had somewhere to share with people that accepted me as I was, which is not something you would get with these so-called supported living. You would have someone controlling your life. You wouldn't get the same freedom as I had with my parents.
I think that's the perfect world everyone's looking for, isn't it? That, a good community to be a part of, but with their own separate space in it.
I generally connect people through doing activities with people. It's one thing that actually works. Unlike a lot of autistic people, I don't collect facts. Conversation can be quite difficult, and I actually don't like this way they call it special interests. They're just interests like anyone else, just less of them.
It's making me think of that thing you used to learn when you did sociology at school or something like that. There's, I think the phrase is anomie, the alienation that in society that's happened with, capitalism and commercialisation, that people have become very detached from each other and communities kind of largely gone in a lot of ways for a lot of people. And that's a great loss, because people are, I hate to say it because I resist it a lot, but humans are thrive through interaction with each other.
The trouble with a lot of things is our society treats socializing as a luxury, and you get offered what they think your diagnosed age group or gender should like, and that is what creates a lot of the isolation.
That's a great point, Robbie. Thanks for that. Socialisation is seen as a luxury.
All the so
Sorry, you go, Robbie.
all the so-called therapy and chat things is all about convincing you to like being on your own. When I had the assessment with the autism team, socializing didn't come within their remit. They wouldn't help me find new places to go. It was just go off and volunteer and go to drop-ins. And it was actually very difficult for me to go new places where I didn't know anyone.
Yeah, I do like what you said, Robbie, about socialising is looked upon or treated as a luxury by society. And even though I've talked about being alone and, liking the coming home away after being with other people for so long, but then if I spend too long without some kind of company, which would be either you're in person or online, it certainly does become a drag, because being an overthinker, an overplanner, it just feels like it's actually quite tiring being alone sometimes, because you're thinking, and if I'm not doing that, I'm sleeping anyway. But it's like having company as a distraction, or it's like a new routine. As long as you know the person and you trust them, etc., of course, it's like something new, something different, and something very comforting. And it's artistic joy for me.
Whenever I'm going to the activity, I'm usually one of the last people to leave because I'm dreading being on my own.
Well, thanks everyone. It was a great conversation as always tonight. And thanks to people that have shared the posts that we've talked about tonight. Really great topics that we've went through. So this is Harry's Facebook for Tuesday the 30th of December 2025, which is part of the Autistic Radio Days, and which is the final programme for, and I've enjoyed it very much. So to let the day finish off, I'll hand over to Jules.
I'm perfectly happy with you making the final statement, Harry. Do you want to just do it?
Absolutely. So thanks everyone for being involved and listening to the Autistic Radio Days. And look forward to doing the same next year. Thanks to Jules for all his hard work, and for everyone else that's been involved. It's been great doing this, and I hope you've enjoyed it. So thank you again. I'll speak to you soon. Good night.